There we go. What is up, guys? Whoa, where are we? There we go. How is everyone doing? Welcome to this stream, our Friday stream. Today we're gonna have a very cool process, and we are gonna be going through one of my classes. This is something that I teach when I'm teaching at universities, and since we're coinciding with the Starfield launch of the game, well, at least the early access launch of the game, I thought it would be a nice idea to start working on this. So what we're gonna be doing today is you guys and we, as a little stream right here, we're gonna be creating an alien. We're gonna be creating a nice little creature for an unknown planet. We're gonna define everything. We're gonna define what type of planet, what type of biome, what type of animal, what type of creature. Is it a predator? Is it a prey? We're gonna define everything, and we're going through this design process first, and after that we're gonna go into the actual sculpting of the high poly version of the character. So yeah, let's go. The first thing we need to do, my friends, and this is again from a design perspective, it's very important that we always try to tell a story, right? When you're creating something, if you can tell a story, that's gonna allow you to connect to whatever audience you're going for, and the more information you have about that story, the better. So if we look for types of planets, for instance, we're gonna find that we have, of course, gas planets, planets like Earth, and in this case, let's just think, instead of types of planets, because I know there's a lot of, let's think of types of biomes. Okay, so let's imagine that we have planets, and pretty much the whole planet is made out of a single type of biome. I know usually there's multiple biomes, but it's probably gonna be easier if we think it this way. So biomes are the type of things like this, like tundra, forest, desert, marine, grasslands, etc., etc. So how should we decide, my friends? Should we do a vote here in the chat? Should I roll a die and see which number we get? Should we do some sort of do we have a poll or something? Andy, welcome, my friend. Luis, me, welcome as well. Welcome. So what should we do? Ideas. Give me just 1 second. Just to answer quick answer. Let's see. Make creature with feathers. Feathers are complicated. They're not impossible, but they're complicated. So we need to check what the or how to do that. Okay, so let's do a random number then. We're gonna do a random number from 1 to 9, and depending on which number we get, that's the the element that we're gonna do. What are we doing? We're doing an alien. We're gonna be doing an alien for Starfield. So we're imagining that we have our own little planet, and depending on the planet, we're gonna do an alien creation. We got number 2 here for Kingseer. Let's do random number between 1 and 9. Let's let Google decide. 2! There you go, Kingseer. You win. So we're gonna go with temperate forest, okay? Temperate forest is gonna be our type of biome. That's pretty nice coincidence. So temperate forest, and let's look for animals. Let's see what kind of animals we usually find in temperate forests. And it seems like temperate forests are the traditional forests that I normally know about. Sorry, I'm getting a spam on my phone. That's why I'm getting a little bit distracted. So we got bears and frogs, raccoons, squirrels. In this case, we need to decide, I would say, between, do we want to do a prey, an animal, a critter that you're not gonna bother or anything, he's just living his life, or are we gonna be doing a predator, right? Someone that's gonna be hunting for the prey. What do you guys think? Should we do predator or should we do prey? Let's decide that one first. Predator or prey? 2 is marine? No, it was this one. I was using this one right here, so it was temperate forest. I'm not sure if you were looking at another one. but 2 is temperate forest. There you go. So predator all the way. Predator. Okay, let's do a predator. We have a bear, we have an opossum. No, opossums are not predators. So we got like the bear, the owl, the fox, the wolf, I would say the raccoons are probably predators. I'm not sure. Snakes. I'm not sure why there's a kangaroo here. That doesn't seem like a temperate forest kind of thing, but maybe it is. A bear sounds interesting. Should we do a bear? No, but I always do like chunky animals and chunky creatures. Let's do something that's a little bit more like slim. Top of the food chain, stick bug. The stick bug would be fun. Let's see another table and see if we have other options here. I kind of feel like inclined to do a owl, but wings and feathers can be a little bit tricky. Should we do a fox? Fox seems like an interesting one. It's like a clever animal. Is there a poll? Oh, we do have a poll. There we go. At the top of the chat, we got a poll that says, who? Predator or prey? There you go. Yeah, we got the poll. Nice. Perfect. Thanks, David. So yeah, okay. So yeah, Predator is winning 4-1. So we're gonna go with Predator. Now, let's do another poll, and we're gonna decide between bear or fox. I think, or do we add a third one? Let's do bear, fox, or yeah, let's do bear and fox. Those seems to be like the only two options, or like the main options, or like bear, fox, or like a bobcat. I think those are good. Bear, fox, or bobcat. Toad could also be an interesting one. We could do like a venomous toad. That would be interesting. I'm gonna vote for this one. The poll's already up, so you guys decide. Bear, fox, or bobcat? Those are like the three predators that we have. Let's see who wins. Ooh, we're in a tie. Oh, Bear is winning. Bear, fox, and bobcat. Okay, Bear is definitely on the lead right now. Yeah, the poll should be at the top of the chat. It says who, and then if you click on that, you should be able to access the little poll thing. So almost up for the time, and we're gonna go with Bear. It seems like Bear is the winner. So cool. Now that's the first pick. Okay, if we go for Bear, we're gonna have our first pick. I'm not gonna go for grizzly bear because he tends to be very like chunky. So I'm gonna go for like a black bear, or this one right here. There's like the China bear. Did you guys see this meme a little while ago where people were like, oh, that just looks like a dude in a bear's costume, this one right here, and people were going crazy thinking that they were being like ripped off. So we're gonna go for this bear right here, Bear China, Sun Bear. It's called Sun Bear. There we go. And the reason I like the Sun Bear is because his like proportions are a little bit more slim, I would say. So let's copy one of this guys right here. Let's go to Photoshop, and this is the first pick. So whenever I'm teaching this class, this is like the science class, the exercise I give my students is they're gonna pick an animal. In this case, we're picking the bear. And now we're gonna pick a nature thing, something that we think is interesting, or what's the word? Something that we feel like it's interesting, or that it gives some like cool effect. If we're in a forest, the first things that comes to mind for me are like mushrooms and the plants and things like that. So I'm thinking this could be a planet where animals and plants, or animals and mushrooms, kind of like merge together in their genetic like evolution, and we have a very organic kind of like living forest sort of thing, right? And when you see animals, they kind of like feel like they're merged together with the whole world. What do you guys think about that idea? Is that good? That could be an option. Another thing that's sometimes like interesting is like minerals, right? So if you look at minerals, there's some very cool shapes, colors, textures that minerals have. So this could be a world, again, full of nature, but then the animals, they're like the sharp, the resistant sort of thing. And it could be a bear that got kind of like mixed with stones in some sort of way. I don't want to go too much into fantasy where there's just like poking things. This is one of the main distinctions about science fiction and fantasy. I remember when I was like learning about this, the easiest way you can explain this is in fantasy. If you try to do something that does not exist in the real world, the explanation or the justification, it's magic, right? It's just magic. So why does this bear has like gemstones poking out of his body? Magic. Magic is just flowing through his body, and that's what happens. Science fiction, you always want to kind of like bring that down into some sort of like scientific explanation. That's why it's called science fiction. So the reason why things are weird in science fictions is because of science. And you could argue that magic and science are the same thing. It's just that magic is not understood and science is. But the thing is, you always want to try to, again, like justify the things. So that's why I was saying if we're gonna do this sort of like mushroom thing or plant thing for the bear, it was an evolution like mixing where like mushroom DNA got into the DNA of like the bears, and now we have a completely new hybrid species. So animals parasiting on mushrooms, like vice versa real life. Yeah, that looks... Animals parasiting on mushrooms. Interesting. That's a really interesting concept, Pepper. How will we do that? I like that. Okay, so let's go back to the mushrooms then. Or fungi. We'll just look for fungi. We're gonna find a lot of like cool things. And let's find a fungi that looks interesting. This is like a very classical one. I've always liked this one right here. I don't know, I find it really, really interesting. So that's a good like source of inspiration. Sometimes even images like this are interesting. Like it's something that we can do to get something working. But yeah, like this guys look really, really nice. I don't want to make like a mushroom bear. I think that would be like weird. But this, I think that like, this is an interesting line that we can use to get something going, right? Yeah, of course, Last of Us has an amazing reference, but I actually don't want this to be like a bad mushroom sort of thing. Like I don't want this to be like a parasite relationship or a parasitic relationship. I was thinking more of a symbiotic relationship, right? Like they help each other somehow. So again, here's where your mind needs to start like moving around, and I can think of something like, let's say that the air in this planet is toxic, right? And it's pretty much impossible for the animals, for like normal mammals and animals to survive. And therefore evolution kind of like brought together the mushrooms and the animals. So now mushrooms work like air filters, and they absorb the air, or they absorb nutrients from like the fog or the mists or whatever. And that's what like keeps the animals breathing. So they need the mushrooms, otherwise they cannot like process or breathe properly. And now we need to find a justification on why the mushrooms need the animals. And it could be, let's try to see, it could be that this type of mushrooms need sunlight, and the best way to get sunlight or get light is for them to move around. So they need to constantly be moving around, and that's why they form this like symbiotic relationship with the bears and other animals, right? So in this world, when you land into this planet, you're probably going to be finding a lot of animals that have some sort of like it's kind of like their like breathing backpack of mushrooms that they need to survive. I think that could be a good what's the word? A good element. Backblade says, let me move the chat because I'm not seeing it. There we go. Those mushrooms look perfect for the concept. They could grow on the sides of animals where the less friction. Yeah, exactly. Like they are kind of like some sort of filter that they need to survive in this specific environment. Friendship is magic. There you go. Animation, everything's good, man. We're trying to like design and find something interesting for our characters right here. Okay. Now here's the wild card. Here's the third part of the exercise, and where things just go bonkers. Because right now it's fairly easy, and you guys probably already have a mental image of how we can merge together these two elements, the bear and the mushrooms. It's usually very simple to just grab two things and create something together. But when you add the third thing, that's when it becomes a little bit complex. So the third thing that we're gonna add is we're gonna add an object, something that we find in the real world, but that has a functionality. And that's gonna be like the main role, or one of the main roles that the bear in this case has. So for instance, I don't know, I'm just gonna say like binoculars, right? So let's say I decided to pick binoculars as my object. I'm not gonna pick this one, but let's say this is the one. In that case, I would need to find a way to merge these two elements in a specific manner so that the bear has like super great eyesight, and he either gets the eyesight from the mushrooms or develop the eyesight on his own, but the main like purpose, the main like the thing that makes this bear the alpha predator of this whole environment is the eyesight, right? So it could be anything, any kind of object. We can do whatever object we want. So we can just do like a random object, or I don't know, give me suggestions, guys. What do you think? Like, think about the craziest objects, say for work, please. Think about the craziest objects you can see around you, and let me know in the chat, and we'll pick one. We'll pick one of those objects. And now, and once we have that object, we're gonna again merge it together and start like ideating how that bear would look, or what the main function of this animal would be in this environment. Meanwhile, let me open ZBrush. I'm waiting for your suggestions. So this exercise, again, I usually do this when teaching the design. A pillow. Okay, that's an interesting one. Very interesting one. I usually do this exercise when we're at schools and where I'm teaching ZBrush and design. And it's always like a wild card, this third element, because that's what really gets you into out of the comfort zone, and you need to start thinking about something a little bit more interesting. So pillow, that's interesting. If the bear were a pillow, that means that he is very resistant to shock. So he's very malleable, and he could like levitate a little bit. He could be very light, and maybe he like his main role is to like drop spores or something. I don't know. Like it's an interesting one. Some kind of mesmerizing song device. That's interesting as well. Screws, cables. Screws. How can we incorporate screws into the design? That's interesting. Okay. That will be interesting. Now, while we in the meantime, while we get more options for how to create something a little bit more interesting, here inside of ZBrush we have this thing called the Z-Zoo. I'm not sure if you guys have seen it before, but it's literally a zoo full of a lot of armatures from animals, base meshes that we can use for our animal construction. As you can see, we have a lot of them. There's like 200. I don't know how many, but there's so many. And this is a great tool whenever you're like trying to create something new and you don't want to start from scratch. This is really good. We have a sheep, we have a red panda, a rattlesnake, we have the polar bear right here. I'm probably gonna be using that polar bear, either the polar bear or the red panda, some of those. We got the mouse, hornworm, greyhound, gorilla. So if you ever want to practice animal anatomy, this is where you go. There we go, black bear. So these are literally just Z-spheres. You can press W and you can move them around to adjust the proportions of the element. And if you already like how this looks, remember that you can press the letter A to see a preview of the mesh. And by pressing the letter A, or actually by going down here to adaptive skin, we can literally say make adaptive skin, and this is going to create a Dynamesh object. As you can see here, well, this one's not Dynamesh, but it's going to create an object. And then if we Dynamesh, we're just going to have a very nice like base mesh for our character. So it's an awesome way to start working on a project without having to spend a lot of time like preparing the proportions and everything. So I'm gonna use my move brush, and let's start moving some of the feet down here so that he's touching the ground. I'm gonna modify the proportions here a little bit with the move brush. Bears usually have they don't have trilateral legs, so these things right here would be touching the ground. Same with this ones right here. Make sure to keep them as balanced as possible. One advice that I give whenever we're working with elements that have or that are touching the ground is to use a cube and just flatten this cube down and use this as a floor. Like that. So that way we can really feel when the character is like actually like on top of the ground, right? Life is easy with those add-ons. That's not an add-on. That's a free. It's free on ZBrush. So here on the Lightbox, if you go to project, there's the Sisu thing. There's also a mannequin one for male and female characters, and it's available. It's been there for a couple of years now, so it's not an add-on really. Looks fluffy and cute. I think Pillow is an interesting one. I'm not sure how that would make him the alpha predator, because Pillow seems very, I don't know, cute. But maybe we don't do a prey or a predator anymore, and we decide to go for something a little bit cuter. Like that's absolutely no problem. So what I'm gonna start doing here is I need to check the silhouette. Silhouette is one of the most important things when designing anything, because the silhouette, the human eye has a sort of like way of it happens pretty much instantly, but it has a way of processing information, and the silhouette of an object is one of the first things that you notice from a like perception perspective. So if we have a really clean silhouette, then, or a really not even clean, like if we have a very distinct silhouette, then it becomes very easy to process the information and understand what we're seeing. You can see that the silhouette of the bear is very very soft, right? It's like short fur, and there's not a lot of like bones like poking out or anything. But in alien worlds, we usually do have things that are a little bit more intense, right? So what I think is, and someone was mentioning this on the what's the word, on the comments, that it would be interesting if the mushrooms were growing on the side of the character, right? So it could be like all of this area, we're gonna have like mushrooms like poking around. So it's kind of like a porcupine where the mushrooms are gonna be, and in this case his silhouette is probably gonna be mostly seen from the side, right? So like this. I'm just like sketching right now. This is not gonna be the final, of course, but it's just a sketch to get an idea of where things are gonna be. We definitely need to work a little bit on the mouth. And I'm gonna exaggerate some of the factions to make him a little bit more realistic. Right now we have very, very low topology, or low, what's the word? Very low resolution, so we don't have access to a lot of detail. I think another thing would be another interesting thing. I'm thinking about again the story, right? Like we should always think about the story. And if we think about the story, one thing it could be like this guy is like a gentle giant, right? Like he's always like very, very nice, and he tries to help the forest like a guardian. But he gets angry, oh, like shit's going down, right? So he's definitely gonna have some like very strong claws. I'm already thinking about some really strong claws on the feet. And over here, he's obviously going to be quite strong, so we can make him a little bit more top heavy to indicate that there's more muscle on the chest area. And again, you don't want to mess with him. Let's start cleaning this up. And I don't know, I feel like adding a little bit of those mushrooms here on the side of the face might also be a good idea. And maybe he like just spreads some sort of like sleeping powder or something. Ursa? Who's Ursa? The only other bear I'm thinking about is Bolivar from League of Legends. Oh, it's from Dota? Okay, I was not far off then. Okay, that's an option. And I like the option, but I also feel it doesn't feel very unique just yet. So we gotta be very careful about the uniqueness of things. Another thing I can like think of is adding some sort of like antlers or some like protrusion in his body. Designing is always tricky, and that's why games and movies, they take so long to to be made, because the designing process can be very, very time consuming when people are trying to figure out what works and what doesn't work. So it's a mix between bear wolf stuff. Oh, nice, nice. Another like thing that I'm like imagining is let me add a sphere here. I'm gonna append a sphere, and it could be something like a mane or something. You know how like lions have the manes? Could be something interesting there. Because again, I wanna try to get a more interesting silhouette. Now, this is another design principle. You can have a smooth silhouette. Like there's nothing wrong with having a very like simple silhouette. But if you're gonna have a simple silhouette, then the inner details of the character should be a little bit bigger. So in that case, that could also be another way in which we can balance out how we're gonna be presenting this character right here. I think that's probably gonna be it. So let's go to the head. I'm gonna increase the resolution here in the Dynamesh. And let me isolate the head so that we can focus on this area right here. I think if we get something right here, it's just gonna like make everything a little bit easier. So let's look for, here's one thing that I like to do. If you look for an old bear, we're gonna be able to find like interesting things about how their faces are, about how their noses are. Like this guy right here, that looks very crazy. There you go, welcome man, APC, welcome to the stream, my friend. You're the first follower today. Today we have an ambitious following, or follow, but we're gonna try to get it. Okay, you know what guys, like this is so stupid what I'm about to do, but it's so good. Like if you want to make something alien and you don't know how to do that, just add another set of eyes. There you go, one more follow, Edelgast. So if we add another set of eyes, it automatically makes the character look a little bit more alien. So that's one way to do it. Adding another set of something, like in this case, he has 2 ears, right? So we can add another set of ears right here. So now he has like 2 sets of ears. That's also like a very quick and easy way to make something look a little bit more alien. Another thing we can do, and this is nothing bad. Someone was asking about this last stream on Wednesday. If we look for alien bear, there's nothing wrong with seeing what people are doing and seeing how we can get inspired, what works, what doesn't work, what do we like. For instance, this thing right here, that looks very freaking cool. Like that's a great sort of like graphic shapes, graphic design for like a bear. Over here, like a horn, that horn I really like. This horns as well, these antlers I really like. But this thing right here, that's pretty crazy. So let's do something like that. Like why not like completely change the structure of the face of our character, right? For instance, instead of having the eyes right there, let's have the eyes like down here. We're still gonna have the nose up there. I'm gonna make like a little bit sadder eyes. Here's where we can have like a double set of eyes. We can have one on the original place and then one lower here. And then here's where we're gonna have the mouth. I'm gonna give him a stronger jaw. So I'm gonna add a little bit more volume here on the jaw. And it's very common aliens to have this like super white effect. Do Googles count as another pair of eyes? I mean, they could, right? So something like this. And I definitely want to add some big tusks to the character. So let's grab a sphere. Right around there. Let's just give this sort of like a tusk shape right there. Oh. There we go. Trim dynamic is an excellent way to kind of like give a little bit of sharpness to the teeth in this case, or to the tusks. Maybe downwards. Instead of tusks, they're gonna be like fangs. There we go. Because otherwise, we were gonna be collapsing or colliding with the ice, and it would be very difficult to see, right? So let's mirror this to the other side. And there we go. So now you can see that we're not doing anything like super fancy. It's still just like a bear silhouette, but we already have something that looks a little bit more interesting, right? I still think, well, should we add horns? What do you guys think? I want to see a spider bear. Bear spider. Should we add horns? I don't want to add antlers because they just feel like we're just like placing them on top. I really like this thing. Like, that's a very like interesting graphic shape. Here's where we can change the, for instance, on this side right here, there's usually the skull. So this could be part of the skull, and he could have like a slightly different silhouette. But that starts looking a little bit too evil, I would say. So could go like a triceratops maybe. And add a little bit of a hood there. I think that looks interesting. The double eyes, double ears I like, so I think that's an interesting effect. Let me cut a little bit of a line right there. There we go. So you can see that the skin kind of like folds and creates a division. Usually from an embryonic point of view, most animals in the world are symmetrical. So this is the little information I remember from my embryology classes. When we are being like formed and we're like a little like bunch of cells, you get like a little worm, and then that worm kind of like folds on top of itself, and we like start like forming from there. So that's why we have a center line, right? Like we're symmetrical, and that's why sometimes people have this like cleft palate, I think it's called, when that like merge on the symmetry line does not work perfectly, and you get a little bit of an issue. Most of the time it's fixable, but in this case I'm thinking about that line and how that could like get right there. Shark style teeth, yeah, that looks good. Says, it seems like a chill stream. I'm not an art guy, but in my 2 minutes being here, you make it sound. Yeah, thanks, man. I try to make it as interesting as possible. And yeah, this is like a very like traditional sort of like design process that we follow when we're creating things. I got this very cool question a couple days ago in the Discord channel, which, by the way, if you guys are not there, you should be. It's very cool. And they were asking me, hey, like, do we need to be designers as well as artists, or is it fine if we just like follow a concept art and that's it? And it's fine if you just follow a concept art. There's a lot of like technically artistic people that can do characters and stuff, but when they have to come up with something, they can be a little bit difficult. However, I feel like once you do this enough, you start getting that experience of, hey, what about adding this or modifying this or changing that, and you start becoming a designer. Now, if you study that, if you start studying about like how to design things properly, then your designs can be elevated quite nicely into a new like sort of level. So it's very, very important that you learn a little bit more about how things are designed. I personally, this is something that I've mentioned a lot, I personally love the sort of Bauhaus approach. The Bauhaus was a movement, an art movement in, I think it was in the 20s in Germany, if I'm not mistaken. No, not the 20s, probably a little bit later, like the 40s, 30s, something like that. And in the Bauhaus, they were very efficient in how they design things. So one of their main sort of tenets or ways they followed things or they did things was using something called form follows function. So everything that they did, like if you were gonna design a chair, the chair should be, you should be able to sit on the chair. Like if you design a chair and you cannot sit on it, then you fail as a designer because it does not like follow its function. And that's sort of like the way I like to design things. So anytime I add something to a character, to a creature, or to a weapon, whatever, I try to follow the form follows function. Not every single time, like every now and then, of course, you can break the rules and try something a little bit more interesting. Like on our Blender course, we've gotten this comment where the axe is not very functional because it has spikes on the handle. I know. That was not my concept, but it's just part of like the cool factor sometimes, right? So yeah, there we go. So now we're adding the little like eye sections right here. So that's the eyelids and the eyes. Let's use our move brush to push this in a little bit more. Let's isolate the face. Ooh, and here's where, did you guys ever see Bob Ross? I think there's like a rerun going on Twitch. Not right now, but every now and then they do it. And Bob Ross used to have this very cool thing, which is the happy little accidents, right? So for instance, I know this on this head right here that I quite like so far. I'm noticing that we have this hole, and that looks like an interesting bony protrusion thing that we can use to give this guy a little bit more of an alien look. So if we just start carving there a little bit, and then use our clay buildup to reinforce those elements, it's gonna look like the bones just change direction slightly right over there. So that's the kind of stuff that you can do to start designing and changing the way that things look. So I'm gonna give this a little bit more resolution because I want to start like polishing some of the forms on the head first, and then we're gonna move on to the body and add like the mushroom things. Now keep in mind that this is just like a 2-hour stream, so we might not be able to get super far, but I'm gonna try to push as much as I can. So I'm gonna create a little bit more cavity here for the eyes. Hello, Burhanadine! Oh, it's like longsword weapons for small characters. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so you should try, not always, but you should try to make sure that things look believable. There's a concept that I use quite a bit in my D&D games. It's called verisimilitude, and verisimilitude says or tries to make it so that whatever you do makes sense. It doesn't need to be real, it doesn't need to be like exactly like physically possible or anything, but as long as it makes sense, you're not gonna break immersion, and people are just gonna enjoy it in general. So that's the kind of stuff that you kind of want to go for. Am I the Bob Ross of 3D? Hey, when I die, if people think that about me, I will be like more than honored. But no, I don't think I'm the Bob Ross of the 3D world. There we go. So the nose, we can make it a little bit more alien. I'm not sure if I want to make it super alien. I can see Chewbacca. As you can see, there's not a lot of like alien bears. So that's really cool because when you Google something and there's not a lot of information about that, that gives you like a little bit more range, and you have a little bit more options to be able to create something a little bit more unique. So whenever you find a concept like that, that's the kind of stuff that you're like, hey, this is good. Like we found something interesting. So let's really exploit it, right? Like, let's really try to push it. Now, don't be too concerned if you try to do something and it's already there, or there's like some variation. Art is always and has always been derivative. So even like the most famous pieces of art that you've seen in games, media, or everywhere, they have influence from something or someone else. It's how you tell the story and how you convey your own experience as a human through that like topic or theme that makes it special. So my best advice is just do it. Just get to work and do art. Even if you want to do like just an orc or a goblin, you want to do a paladin in shiny armor, that's fine, go for it. Like no one's stopping you. There's not like an art police that's gonna go to your house and be like, hey, stop, you're doing another goblin, there's enough goblins in this world, you're under arrest. Like, that's not gonna happen. If you want to do another goblin, do it. But make it your own. Like, how are you gonna make a goblin that describes how you as an artist think, the sensibilities that you as an artist have? Like, that's the secret. That's the key to being an artist, a unique artist. You don't want to just grab a copy of whatever like famous like media piece and that's it. You always wanna put a little bit of yourself in your art. That's what makes art so amazing. Sorry, I got a little bit inspired right there. Kingsley says, you just put some strokes on nose, it's looking better. You using reference? No, it's just like I'm just like trying to see how these things flow. And sometimes this is that's a really great question, by the way, King. Thank you for the follow, Super Monkey. Welcome to the stream. it's always good to have some reference. Like, reference is good, but reference is like the training wheels on a bike, right? Like, reference is supposed to be a guide, it's not supposed to be a rule. So if I see a reference and I see something that I like, I will take it, and then I will see how, again, as I was mentioning, how can I modify it to make something a little bit more interesting. Now, of course, with experience, with practice, with all of these things, it becomes a little bit easier to know what's gonna work and what's not gonna work. You're also gonna develop a style, and this is something that it took me a long time personally to kind of like understand, because whenever I did things, I always thought I was doing or following reference, and then good friends of mine would be like, oh yeah, that's Abe, like that's the Abe style, and I'm not sure what would define my style. You would need to ask them. Oh, thanks for the subscription, Seth Game Master. We're almost at 20 subscribers. That's very cool. So, but yeah, you as an artist will have a specific style, a specific way of doing things that the more you do, the more obvious it will be. I consider my style to be this sort of like semi-realistic. I don't like realism as much. I always like this sort of like World of Warcraft cinematics where they go realistic, but they go realistic cartoon. And I remember watching a making of from the Mist of Pandaria, and that's what they were saying. Like they say that they always take like the real world reference and they push it, right? Like they stylize it while keeping things control, if that makes sense. And by doing that, they generate a very particular style. So I've always liked that sort of style, and that's kind of like the way I do my own stuff. Hello, my friend, welcome. Overlay's not working. Oh, my bad. There you go. See, the thing is, I have on OBS, I have a main record, which is the one that I usually use, and then I have the stream, and I forget to switch between them. Sorry for that, my friends. But there's the chat. There's the chat and the overlays and everything. You're gonna see them in just a second. So if someone's not like following, just follow, and you're gonna see the cool little animation that we have. So yeah. So now you can see that this head right here is looking, I would say, quite interesting. It's not super menacing. It's not looking like a super menacing. There you go, King here. Thank you for the follow. You were not following, King, or did you unfollow and then follow again? There you go. Yeah, police is coming my way. I know. Yeah, I think that's one issue that we have as artists. We tend to be a little bit too self-conscious about what things we're like allowed to do, and you're allowed to do whatever you want. You do need to keep in mind, however, and this is something very important, that the same way you are allowed to do whatever you want in art, everyone else who is going to be exposed to your art, who's going to see it, they have the right and they're allowed to have their own opinion. So if you're like, oh, I'm allowed to do whatever, okay, I'm going to do a character without any regards to anatomy, I'm just going to follow my style. Well, that's fine. If you want to do it, go for it. But then when you present it to the world, if the world says like, hey, your anatomy sucks, they have the right to say that, right? So it's like a two-way street in art. You're free to do whatever you want, but people are free to interact with your art however they want as well. Thanks, man. Thank you. Yeah, Sarah just dropped the link there on our Discord. We have a help channel, so if you are a 3D artist or you want to get into 3D, you want to do a little bit of what I'm doing right here, feel free to join the Discord channel. We have a help group, we have a very cool like community, very cool chat, and we also have a main YouTube channel where I upload videos very frequently. We're doing like every other day, so you get like 3 or 4 videos a week. We got our streams. We had a giveaway on Wednesday, which, by the way, Wednesday was an amazing day. Thank you very much for everyone who was there. And yeah, we're growing. This is the 2nd month that we've been working on this brand so far. I've been teaching 3D for several years now, but it was until this year that I decided to start my own brand. So welcome and thank you for being part of this, my friends. 30 viewers, amazing. It's pretty cool. This bear is reminding me of Metro 2033 Monsters. You know what? I never played Metro 2023. Metro 23 Monsters. Yeah, okay, yeah, I can see it. I can see. Very creepy. Is it a good game? I've heard it's a good game. like a good shooter. Yeah, that's nice. We might add a couple of extra teeth right there. Okay, so I think we have a good like base for the head. Now we need to think about what are we gonna do on the body, because we already have a little bit over 1 million polygons, and the rest of the body is not like properly like created, right? So in here, what I would suggest is trying to think again graphically, where are the mushrooms going to be? We already know that we're gonna have this sort of like flaring mushrooms like growing on top of the character, like filters. And I think, of course, like on all of this area, the clavicles or the shoulder blades, that's definitely one part where the mushrooms are gonna be. I think like a little bit here on the face might be a good idea. And this is another design thing. I'm gonna give you like a little secret. Have you guys seen giraffes? Everyone has seen giraffes, right? I want you guys to pay close attention on the size of the spots of the giraffe. And if you pay close attention to it, you're gonna notice that we start with really big like blotches of spots, and as we go to the extremities, to the head and to the legs, the size of the spots becomes smaller and smaller and smaller. It just doesn't just stop. It's always a gradient, and nature is very interesting in this way because you can see this everywhere. If you look, for instance, into like an iguana, right? The scales of an iguana work in a very similar way. Like you start with very big scales, and then you go smaller and smaller and smaller, and it's always a transition. Okay, so nature doesn't just like stop. There's always a sort of like gradient movement when you're designing a creature. So it's more on a texture in real life. Yeah, that's right. I see a tiger of Ice Age in bear, probably because he has an interesting skull. Yeah, he's definitely looking a little bit more like a saber-tooth tiger or something. But hopefully the chunkiness will still read as a bear. So when we're designing things, like if I'm gonna have a main cluster of mushrooms right here, I definitely need to kind of like fade them out, okay? So they're gonna fade out smaller and smaller mushrooms, and we're gonna have this sort of like area where we have big mushrooms on this top part, and then smaller mushrooms as we like fade into another element. And then I'll probably have another, like, we could even have like small mushrooms here, and then we go over to this area, we have bigger mushrooms as well. Same thing here on the face, we can have like one big mushroom on this area, and then smaller ones going to the side of the head. So all of those like little decisions that we make are important, and that's the thing that you guys, now that you're like learning all of these things, you're gonna see that we're gonna have, or you're gonna see games and things differently, because most games and most elements, they always have a lot of thought into them. So it's very weird when you have a creature or like an environment or anything that's just there for the sake of being there. There's always an artist that had a little bit of time thinking about why and how these things relate to each other. Now I'm gonna show you another trick. Welcome, Roma, there you go. I've been missing you, man. Long time no see. Roma is an old student of ours from the old channel. Glad you were able to get here. ZBrush is expensive. Yes, unfortunately, ZBrush is expensive. And a couple of years ago, they got bought by Maxon. Before that, you could buy the perpetual license, and they were like giving you all of the updates for free. It was amazing. I had that for a couple of years, and then now it's a subscription-based model, which sucks, to be honest. It's a shame that we have to do it. But hey, capitalism, right? Capitalism. Oh my god, what's going on with me today? Capitalism. There you go. Welcome to the stream, man. Was there a question? Saga. I think I missed the question, but I'm not sure. I'm doing great, man. Why are we not streaming on YouTube? To be honest, it's a lot more fun here. We have a lot of things. We have the little like alerts. We have the chat and like the goals. I don't know. I just feel like Twitch has a lot of it has a little bit more tools for streamers. It makes for a more interesting experience so far. But all of the streams have been uploaded to YouTube, so if you miss one stream, you can go to our new main YouTube channel and you can look for it right there. Let me get some water real quick. There we go. So now we definitely need to get the mushrooms, and I'm gonna show you a technique that we can use for that. I'm gonna start with a cylinder. I'm gonna make this a polymesh 3D. We're gonna make this a lot flatter. You can see the mushrooms, they kind of like flare out, right? So we need to work with that. I'm gonna Dynamesh, and then with my move brush, I'm just gonna push the center of this thing down, and the bottom part. Well, before we do that, make sure that we have symmetry turned on, and we're just gonna give this the sort of a mushroom shape. I'm gonna grab Trim Dynamic. Trim Dynamic is a great brush to kind of like bevel the edges in an organic way. So it's not gonna be like super clean bevel. It's gonna give us an interesting effect. And what I want to do is I want to create like 2 or 3 variations of that mushroom, and then we're just gonna like replicate them along the surfaces that we want, right? So if we take a look at the mushrooms, you're gonna see that they have a really interesting border. And in this particular case, I am gonna do something that I normally don't do, which is I'm gonna go a little bit higher on the details. So I'm gonna use Damien Standard here. We're not gonna use symmetry anymore. And I'm gonna start creating like the first mushroom. So let's carve in a little bit there, and we know all of this like fibers are gonna go to the center of the mushroom, right? Some of them are gonna be smaller, some of them are gonna be bigger. There we go. I have another one right here. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use my move brush, and this is a perfect circle, right? So let's start just like damaging it a little bit so it's not as symmetrical. We're gonna use Trim Dynamic to clean a little bit of these elements right here. Am I Muslim? No, I'm not Muslim. Abe, could you check the Discord help section when you have a moment? I have a lot of brush pack. Do you think it's good? I want to get this pack since I can't use ZBrush. Let's take a look. Help room. Let's see. Yeah, that looks good. It's a little bit expensive, the extended license. But if it's 550 brushes, it could be worth it, yeah. It's definitely stylized, so make sure that you understand that. But yeah, that's a good pack. Did you see my Tharos model? What do you think about it? Can I get any feedback from you? I think I saw it. Did you submit it on the Discord? I think I did see it. Or did you tag me on like LinkedIn or something? We have a lot of submissions, so I can get lost between them every now and then. So I apologize if I don't see all of them. But yeah, if you submit for the next portfolio review, man, I'll be more than happy to take a closer look at the character. Do you have a mushroom reference on the second stream? If not, why do you know so much about mushroom? That's suspicious, right? No, I have the reference right here, and I've done like mushroom characters before, so I do remember some stuff from them. That's kind of like the mental library that you build on your brain the more you do this sort of thing. Now, here in Mexico, the drug problem is really, really bad, so you don't want to be part of that problem. You don't want to get involved in that sort of stuff, to be honest. Ah, thanks, man. Thank you. I'm glad you like what we do right here. I'm gonna add a little bit of a border here on the underside of the mushroom. And this is the kind of stuff that the more time you invest on this, so for instance, if I spend like 2 or 3 hours sculpting this mushroom to perfection, then when I place it on the bear, it's gonna be like really, really good. Right now we're kind of like I'm not sure. I'm not sure if the chat allows it. You might get like the automoth thing to affect you. But if it's about the Thyros thing, I'll check it on Discord. Okay, just drop the link on Discord or send me a link on the a message on Discord, and I'll be happy to take a look. Another one here. Another one here. I might get the Xbox Game Pass next week so that we can play a little bit of Starfield. I think that would be interesting. Although last time we did a Let's Play, I suck at the I suck at narrating and trying to play at the same time. I'm better at explaining the art process. Okay, let's take a look at this. Yeah, so I think we need to bevel this a little bit heavily, like more heavy. So I'm gonna be a little bit more aggressive on the bevel here. One of the most challenging things, in my opinion, could be making fabric. Yeah, sculpting fabric is really tricky. So if you're gonna be doing fabric and you need it to be like super realistic, my best advice is Marvelous Designer. I'm actually gonna be recording a Marvelous Designer course for October after the Maya course. Well, we have 2 Maya courses and then Marvelous Designer. So yeah, because Claude is very dynamic. So, and even though like Seabird has its own thing right now where you can use like dynamics and stuff, it's not as good, to be honest. Let's play a little bit here with the silhouette. Like, we don't want all of the borders of the mushroom to be exactly the same. Action is November. So after Marvelous Designer, we're gonna have action probably, if I'm not mistaken. Would be great to see some games with commentary and 3D works in there, like environment mistakes. I did that last year with Elden Ring, or earlier this year with Elden Ring. And that's one of the things that I always find very fascinating. There are a lot of games out there that are really good games from a game perspective, but then you look at the art and it's not that impressive. Elden Ring is one of those. Like, it's really cool, but it's not like the best graphics that you've ever seen, right? And something similar happens to like Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. They're really great games, but if you think about the art's not that great. And then you have amazing looking games that are really bad as from a gameplay perspective. I think what was this Red Faction, was it called? Like this sort of like Russian dystopian thing that came out earlier this year with like the twin robots, like twin female robot thingies. And that one had a gorgeous art, but I heard that the gameplay was not that good. Didn't play it, to be honest. So that's the thing. Like, you don't need to be like a super amazing artist to create a really cool game, and you don't need to be a super amazing like programmer to do a beautiful game. So they're 2 different things, and they're very valuable, I would say, but they're different. So there's a lot of things that go into game design. Like here, I own a small, or I co-own a small studio here in my hometown, and we do VR experiences. And they're small experiences, like 5 to 7 minutes experiences. They're games. They're just small games for museums and stuff. And even for like a 5 to 7 minute experience, it's so much work that goes into it. Like, so much work. Atomic Heart, there you go, Atomic Heart. Yeah, of course, God of War was amazing, right? Art and gameplay wise. But then you think about how many people worked on that game, and you're like, I mean, that's a lot, right? That's probably one of the hardest things that I need to do as an instructor when people are learning 3D. I need to break their hearts and be like, hey, you wanna do God of War? That's fine, but you're not gonna do all God of War. You're gonna do a little bit of God of War, and thanks to an amazing team, you're gonna be doing like, or the whole team together, you're gonna be working and generating something that big. But people, I don't know, I think our human minds, it's a little bit difficult to comprehend unless you are really there and see the whole thing, and you think that it is possible. I remember when I was a student, I had a super heated discussion with a roommate that I had. He was not studying art, and I always like to show him the World of Warcraft cinematics and be like, hey, look, this is what I love to do. This is like what inspires me, right? And he's like, oh, that's very cool. You should do one yourself. It's like, no, it's not that easy. It's not like you can do one yourself. Like one single person cannot do a cinematic at the level of Blizzard, right? Or maybe you can, but it's gonna take you like 15 years, and by the time the technology is gonna be like way more advanced. So he was like adamant that someone could potentially do it by their own. It's like, no, you need animators, texture artists, shader artists, compositors, audio guys, like environment artists, character artists, weapon artists. Like it's so many people involved in that sort of stuff that it's not really like feasible for a single person to do it completely. You can do really cool stuff, right? Like you can do like 5-second animations, 10-second animation, 1-minute animations, and they're gonna look very cool. But big productions require big teams. That's the I'm not gonna, it's not a sad like thing, it's just that's the way it works. After 10 years of studying, if you studied hard, yeah, right? Like it's just so, it's so difficult to do big productions, big budget things. And nowadays people think that thanks to AI is like, oh yeah, AI is just gonna solve everything and you're gonna do amazing things with AI. Nah, AI is good. It's a great tool. I like a lot of things that you can do with AI. For instance, the shorts that I've been recording so far for the YouTube channel and for TikTok and Instagram, the subtitles for those are generated with AI inside of Adobe Premiere, and it saves me so much time having to, like, without having to do the transcript and everything. So it's a great tool, but it's not gonna solve the world. Elden Ring doesn't have perfect quality and detailing from a design perspective, but it excels in reflecting ambience and art. Yes, exactly. How do they achieve it? They need to have a very strong art direction. So there's a role that doesn't get talked, well, I mean, it does get talked about too much, but there's not like a school that you can go for art direction. That's more something that you learn and then you start implementing. My role actually right now here in the studio that I was talking about, again, it's a small studio, keep that in mind, but my role is art direction. So I don't do a lot of like 3D on the projects that we do on the studio. I just tell the people like how I envision things to make sure that they look like a cohesive experience. And they present their works and they give them feedback, and if they need help, of course I help them. But my role is more of for an art direction sort of thing. That's actually my title. I'm the art director in our little studio here. So art direction, as an art director, you need to make sure that you have a really good sense of design, composition, storytelling, so that when you bring everything together, it looks like a cohesive experience in every sense. The audio, the character design, the colors, the music, like everything has to feel like it belongs to the same thing. Unfortunately, I don't know how to use the Discord, but I posted the model on the 3D Workshops channel right below the portfolio review. Okay, yeah, that's perfect, man. Yeah, the 3D Workshop is actually, like, you did it right. Like, that's the place where you need to submit your work. Can't you, like, not help them? Let them figure out your vision on their own? Challenge? No. Sometimes I do it. Like, sometimes I'll just tell them, hey, this is the project. Like, come up with ideas, and that's the way to get the creative juices out and get them to think outside the box and find interesting solutions. But you guys need to understand that, and we talked about this on the how to pick a project video. It's not the same thing to do something like for work where there's money involved than to do something out of just like love or just because you want to do it. So the projects that we do here in the studio, there's budgets, there's time frames, there's like investors and things like that. So I as an art director need to be very responsible about that, and I need to be as clear as possible on the direction that we're having, so that we don't have to do reworks and have crunch time or anything, and things just flow as nicely as possible, right? So yeah, that's actually a great question, Pepper, because in the art world there's a big difference between art for production, like art for money, where you want to create awesome things that are also going to be a success from a monetary perspective, and art for art's sake, right? Like if you just want to do art because you want to like inspire and be inspired, that's great. It's a great thing to do. But then money is not in the equation, right? And there are some studios that do it that way, like they focus on their products and they make amazing things because they want to make amazing things, and then due to the fact that they're amazing things, money like comes along. But there's also a lot of studios that just focus on the money and they see it as a business. So I'm gonna give you a great example. I forgot the name of the studio, but the guys that did Hades, the roguelike game that won, I think it won some game award last year or 2 years ago. They do not do things that they don't want to work on, and every game that they've produced has been an amazing game because they know what they're going for. So they know that they want to create amazing games. They don't care about rushing them. They don't care about DLC. They don't care about anything. They just make an amazing game. And thanks to the fact that they can do that, then the games that come out are amazing from them. But there's other studios that don't care about that. Blizzard is a great example. Like, they were amazing a couple of years ago, but now they've been very, very greedy, and it's a shame because they had amazing games, and now, well, not so much, right? Yeah, Hades was amazing. Roma, yes, I'm not gonna be able to take a look at it today, my friend, but maybe next stream. I think we have a portfolio review coming in a couple of weeks. So if you, I'll just like drop your link on the portfolio as well, so that we can take a look at it once we get there. Yeah, so that's the thing. Again, from a business perspective, game production can become like a gamble, right? So there might be a great idea. Look, let's do a game about this and this and that. But if they don't give the artists, the designers, the producers enough time to finalize that idea, and they just want to get the idea done so that they can exploit and get the money, and I'm talking about like investors and shareholders, then unfortunately games end up like a lot of things that we've seen in the past couple of years, where they're not finished, they're like filled with bugs and bad like details, and just like another good experience, right? On the other hand, and we're seeing it with Baldur's Gate right now, if you let a studio do what they know how to do, you give them time, you give them resources, and you just let them finish your product like nicely, then you get a great game. I was reading an interview that they did to the creators of Tears of the Kingdom as well, and something like that happened. I think the game was ready last year, and but they didn't want to rush it, and they spent like pretty much like another year like polishing the physics system and polishing the whole like building thing to make sure that it was as clean as possible. And it shows, it's a finished product. But the problem is the market, we as gamers tend to be a little bit impatient, and we pressure sometimes the studios is like, no, just release it, I just want to play it, I want to play it, whatever. And we need to learn to be a little bit more patient in that regards. The Hidden, what's up, my friend? Welcome to our stream. Mr. Suits, yeah. If you let the studio to make something great, Twitter is gonna rage. Let's go. Yeah, but again, that's the thing, because I've been on both sides of the equation. I've been on the artist side of things, where it's like, oh, please give me more time, I can make this even better. And now as an art director, I'm in the point where it's like, hey guys, like I'm gonna try to get as much time and as much resources as we can, but this is a business, and we need to make sure that the business stays afloat. Otherwise, we could spend 10 years working on something, but who's gonna pay for the bills and the computers and the softwares and the licenses? It's just not possible, right? So we need to find a balance, and that balance is where the tricky part is, because some studios go way too hardcore on the production, and they're like, we're gonna finish this in 2 months and it's gonna be garbage, and others go all the other way to the other side. Like another example, Star Citizenship or something like that. Those guys have been in production for what, like 10 years or something? And now they're in a point, or at least I've read they're in a point, where a lot of the technology that they developed earlier is now becoming not obsolete, but old technology. And they can't afford to just like start over with new engines such as Unreal Engine 5 or anything. So if they don't release the game soon, by the time they release it, it's just gonna be too late. It's not gonna be an attractive game anymore, right? So that's why you have to find a balance of being efficient and at the same time being being like creative, right? Like being able to create something that's very cool and people are gonna love. Now on your free time, you're free to do whatever you want. Like if you want to work on a ZBrush sculpt for like 12 years until it's freaking perfect, go for it. Yeah, I think Riot it does, they do follow that on the big scale. I've heard that they are not as good on the like patch side of things. Like they rush patches and they rush items and things like that sometimes, or some champions that are like stupidly unbalanced on release. But yeah, I would say that Riot has also been like very clean in that regard. Nintendo is probably the best one, the best example, because I don't think I've ever heard about a Nintendo game that was like filled with bugs and unfinished and just like a bad product. Official, like from the like first party Nintendo games. I know there's a lot of like trashware on the eShop and stuff, but from a Nintendo perspective, I think that they haven't really like dropped the ball on that side kind of thing. Briar? I don't know who Briar is. Pepper. Okay, so now we have 3 different, well, this one probably needs a little bit more love here. So we're gonna have 3 different like mushrooms. And I'm gonna show you finally the little tool that we're gonna use to like place this on the bear. Oh, that's the next champion. I haven't played League in so long. I love the lore. The lore from League of Legends was freaking amazing. But the game is so toxic. At least it came to a point where I was not enjoying it anymore. I remember reading an analogy. Like, have you guys heard about the cookie analogy? Okay, I'm gonna look for her. Briar. League of Legends. Let's see. Interesting. I'm not sure I love the design. I can see why people are gonna love the design though. Yeah, I'm not sure. Looks a little bit weird. Too edgy, I would say. Too edgy for me. Why would they put the light on the feet? People enjoy her so much, Riot Leaks account banned the word feet. Oh my god. Yeah, people can be very intense sometimes. Okay, so I just want to make sure that when we switch between these 3 guys, we get like slightly different effect. Now that we have this, here's a trick. I'm gonna go to this side view right here, and I'm gonna say V, and down here it's create insert multi-mesh. And now I have this like mushroom multi-mesh brush, and if I go to my little bear right here, oh, not that one, this one, I'm gonna append a new sphere, because I don't want the mushrooms to be attached to the bear itself. So I'm gonna append a new sphere. The sphere is gonna live inside of the bear, and now I can literally just draw and create a mushroom right there. And we can push this and start like building the whole thing. Now, if I want to customize this brush a little bit more, because you can see when I draw this, the mushroom draws nicely, but it's like using that border right here. We can go to brushes, and on the depth option, we can push this depth down so that when we draw, as you can see, we're gonna draw just half of the mushroom, which is what I want. And I can draw another mushroom and then hit E, and we can rotate and start building the little like effect right here. And I can change, because remember we did 3 mushrooms right here. We need to do this with each one of this, the depth thing. So brush, depth, there we go. And that's how we start populating this whole thing right here. We can rotate as well. We can scale on one axis or the other. And this is what I was mentioning, like doing a little bit of work on the mushroom side of things is gonna save us a lot of time once we're doing this thing right here. Let's add some small ones here on the face, and we're gonna follow the same sort of like principle that I was telling you about with the giraffe, where if we add a little bit of mushrooms here, we're gonna fade them out. So let's grab this one now, and we're gonna start with smaller, like some big mushrooms, and then some small ones. And then again, they kind of like fade out, right? It's like small like spores or something. And that's the kind of stuff that's gonna make things a lot more interesting. Over here, probably need to go a little bit bigger. Small. Let's change the mushroom because it's looking a little bit too repetitive. Let's change the depth on this one again. By the way, this mushroom brush that I'm doing, it's gonna be available on our resources. If you go to our Discord channel, we have a resources and there's a Google Drive link. If you go there, I have like image planes, like cool little tips and tricks, like a lot of stuff. So this one's gonna be there on the C brushes. So in case you guys wanna do a creature, you're gonna have access to this brush to save a little bit of time. Of course, we're gonna do a mirror in just a second. So right now it's just the basic construction. Doesn't matter if there's a little bit of overlap. We can clean that up later and just get a nice little idea here of how this bear is looking. Yeah, that looks good. Look at that silhouette from the top. That's a really neat silhouette. Does he have feet? If not, lore is valuable. Yeah, he has feet. That's a feet. I'm joking. Oh, you were referencing the yeah. Come on. I'm not sure about the mushrooms here on the front, to be honest. I've seen sometimes they add like a little bit of mushrooms here on the on the knees and stuff. The problem is these are areas that are gonna move a little bit in animation. So we also need to be careful about not like overdoing it, because it could be difficult to like, this is already going to be a little bit tricky to like retopologize if we were doing this for games. Like ideally you're going to retopologize them as separate pieces so that you don't have to create like a mesh that flows nicely, and it's just like things that are going to be pretty much overlapped on the character. Now let's keep the bottom legs clean. There we go. Control W to make sure that everything has a polygroup, and we're gonna mirror to the x-axis. Yes. There we go. So that's a very, now it's become a very VC silhouette, and it's gonna give us an interesting effect right there. Mushroom has to be sensitive part, so it needs to be protected. I guess it will be good to put some kind of repulsion in action. Yeah, the repulsion is going to be the spores, so he's constantly going to be like, or I imagine if this was in-game, he would constantly be expelling like spores and things to get protected, or to protect himself. So people won't get near this guy because they would get sleepy, because it's a pillow, right? So it's like a sleepy spores or something. The mush bear. Now I'm gonna use my clay buildup just to give a little bit of noise to indicate or kind of like suggest like hair. There we go. So I would imagine that's like fur. You can maybe use like our move brush. Just add like a, eventually that will be, or those will be like hair cards or something. You can imagine a plushie of this guy, yeah, right? Let me take a look at I really like the effect. So one thing I think I'm gonna give this guy is like a very puffy like underside as well. So again, just a suggestion. This is just a design, an initial design, an initial idea. This is the kind of stuff that you would present to the art director. So I would tell, like, if this was a real case of design, I would tell my artist, hey, we need a bear. He's gonna get mushrooms. He's like a sleepy bear, so if you get close to it, you fall asleep. He is a gentle giant, but if you make him angry, he's gonna fuck you up, right? So if that's like the idea, that's the message that you want to convey, and then they send me this. There's like, hey, I've been working on this. What do you think? Oh, you know, let's change this, let's change that, let's adjust this silhouette here, move this thing over here. But this is something that you can show your art director before you do the whole like retopology, textures, rigging, everything, because you don't wanna wait until the very end. That's a very common mistake that I see people make with clients, especially freelancers. A client hires you, you should give them constant updates, because if you give them constant updates, then they know what to expect, and you're not gonna be like delivering something at the end of the day that we're not expecting, and that also minimizes the amount of times that you're gonna be doing like reworks and stuff. One of the worst things that happens when you're freelancing, I've been freelancing almost ever since I like graduated, and one of the worst things that happens as a freelancer is that clients are gonna be like, oh, can we change this now, and can we change this like this, and can we make this adjustment? And it's very difficult to say no because they haven't paid you, or at least not the full money, and you go like, okay, yeah, I'll do it, and then you end up working double or triple the amount of time that you were expecting. Yeah, so if you show them like constant updates, then it's a lot more difficult or it gives you a little bit more room to negotiate. Like what I tell my clients is, hey, for instance, we're finishing the high poly process of this character. Do you like it? Yeah, it's looking cool. I want to see the colors. Yeah, we're gonna go to textures, but do you like the high poly? Do you want me to change any proportion? Do you want me to adjust any part of the body or whatever? And they're like, no, it's perfect. Let's go with that. Okay, cool. And then I'm very clear. If later on we need to make a change and the change is too complicated to do it quickly, I'm gonna have to charge you extra. And they're like, yeah, that's cool. And then it happens like, oh, could we make him a little bit thinner? Can we make him a little bit like fatter? If you can modify it quickly by just like moving the low poly or whatever, then fine, you do it. But if not, it's like, hey, remember how I told you that this might cost extra because it's a little bit more difficult and we need to make more adjustments? And they're like, yeah, well, this is one of those cases. Do you want to proceed? It will be, I don't know, X amount of money. Most of the time they're like, no, then it's fine, let's keep it like this. And then they have learned. So next time you work with them, they're like, hey, I do want to change a couple of things before we move on, because I know that if we don't change them now, it's gonna cost me extra later. So that's another huge like thing about like business that they don't teach you at school. School usually just focuses on teaching you the tools. There's so much things out there, guys, so much things, and unfortunately you learn that the bad way. One of these days I'm gonna tell you about a client that ripped me off, and they owed me like, what was it, like $5,000 or something like that. Yeah, like $5,000 roughly. They never paid, and they did use the product, so it's like, yeah, fuck them. But that's life, you learn. Let's go over here. And that's also part of what I try to teach on my, exactly. That's a lot, right? It's a lot of money that they owed me. This was back in like 2017. So like it's gone now. That money is never ever coming my way. But yeah, that's how you learn. So with that client, the lesson that I learned was that let's allow that one. Yeah, the lesson that I learned with those guys was always have everything written in a contract, because my mistake with that particular client was that a friend of mine was the one in charge of the project, and he was the one that was making all the movements and stuff, and he made a mess. So we're of course not friends anymore. Yeah, okay, we're going, welcome, and it does suck. Yeah, but for some reason here in Mexico, I don't know why that is, because I've worked with clients from all over the world, and whenever I work with an international client, it's very straightforward. There's a contract, there's like dates and everything. Here in Mexico, everything is so freaking like unofficial. So they're just like, hey, I want you to do this commercial for me. It's like, yeah, it's gonna be this much. Okay, yeah, start working on it. And then you just hope, like, just trust people and hope that they're gonna like be honest with their words and stuff. It's really risky. And when you say, yeah, I'm gonna send you the contract, there's like, whoa, why do you want to send a contract? They get like scared and stuff. And there's a lot of people that won't work if there's a contract, which should be like a must, right? But for whatever reason, that's the way it works here in Mexico. Not with everyone, but at least at the like beginner freelance level, there's a lot of that. Yeah, so it's part of the process, unfortunately. There we go. So yeah. Oh, the music finished? Finished. Let's go with this. There we go. Suddenly everything became quieter. So here I'm gonna use my snake hook brush. Oh. Yeah, so one of my advices for freelancers, if you guys are freelancing or thinking about freelancing, contracts are a must. At least just agreeing in a written agreement of what you guys are doing with the client. It's would be important. Another thing that's very important is to be very clear on the deliverables, because that's another thing where I've gotten some issues in the past, where the client thinks or expects you to give certain type of deliverables, and then you're like, no, we like, just to give you an example, like we're gonna produce a 1 minute short to like give advertisement to a product, right? And then you finish that and they're like, okay, now I want all of the shots that you created on that 1 minute thing as individual like shorts, so that we can use them in like Facebook shorts and stuff like that. It's like, no, you paid for a 1 minute advertisement. If you want me to edit and prepare like 10 different clips of that, well, that's extra, right? And just like, oh, but you already have them, you just need to edit them and cut them. It's like, I mean, yeah, it might not be difficult, but like it's like it's like you're getting away, you're trying to get away with a lot of extra stuff that you didn't pay for, and that's unfair, right? So you need to be very clear with the client so that you don't get into those sort of like situations. Yes, of course, King. Yeah, you guys can share on the whips section. You can create yeah, you can start sharing. You can also create on the 3D workshop. You could create a thread so that you can share like inspiration things. That's great. Yeah, el que no tranza no avanza. That's the translation would be, if you don't cheat, you don't advance, or you don't move forward. And that's unfortunately a very common like conception here in Mexico, which sucks. Yeah, I think it's part of human nature. Like people just want the easy way out. Give him like really chunky feet. I'm gonna start trimming the feet down because we're gonna add some like big claws. So just want to have like the little, like the last phalange of the fingers. There we go. Yeah, our Discord channel, guys, it's there for sharing all kinds of stuff. The only thing that's not allowed is like pirating things or like not safe for work stuff. We try to keep things clean and friendly, so we don't condone or support that sort of stuff. Game Art, welcome, man. Welcome to the stream. Let's add a new sphere. This is gonna be the claw. So I'm gonna use my move brush. As I mentioned, we're gonna give him really big, like intimidating claws. Let's duplicate with Control and Alt. And then duplicate with Control and Alt. I thought bears had like 5 fingers, but since this one's alien, 3 fingers look good. Let's duplicate this one to the back. I think it helps with the whole like alien vibe. And we mirror to the other side. And now we go back to the body, and we can use this new like claws as masks. Remember, whenever we have two subtools, the tools or the subtools work as masks, and we can just like draw this on top of the whole thing. So it helps us for the construction of the element. They do look a little bit too big, to be honest, and that's starting to give me a little bit of cartoonish vibes. But again, for a concept, I think it's a good idea, or I think it's good. A good result. Welcome. If you guys are not following and you want to help us get to our next goal, make sure to follow. You don't lose anything by following. Now, if you do want to subscribe, help us with a Prime subscription or something. That's also appreciated. Very appreciated. We just had a giveaway on Wednesday, so make sure to follow so that you get the notification when we get or when we do more giveaways, which hopefully will be very, very soon. Game Art says, since you have the experience, I know maybe you don't like talking about it, but if you're comfortable doing so, do you think making courses and doing YouTube is a viable option for a 3D artist to make a living? That's a great question. So it depends. Of course, you need to be good. that's one. You need to offer something that is of value to that community. I've been doing this for a long time. Like, I know this channel, this brand is very new. It's just 2 months old, but I've been teaching for the past 8 years, and I've been doing like tutorials for the past like 6 years. So I already have my fair share of experience doing this. And at first, it was not that great. Right now, since we're starting, we're slowly building up, and hopefully we'll keep growing as a brand and keep helping people. Is it a good way to do it? Yes. I mean, there's a lot of competition. It's not only me. There's a lot of great, talented artists that are also sharing their stuff and doing their courses. I do recommend that you get some experience in the industry. I've been fortunate enough to have my own studio for a long time as well. Before Hyperlab, which is the one that I'm in right now, I had another one called Critical Hit, and we've been doing a lot of work for the local industry. So having the credentials, like having the projects under your belt where you can prove that what you're teaching works, it's a great way to give yourself some validity, right? But there's a lot of opportunities, a lot of job opportunities out there, and teaching is definitely one of them. So it is viable. However, I do recommend, and this is not something that only I say, pretty much everyone who does like entrepreneurship recommends this. Don't put everything on a single basket. Don't put all of your eggs in a single basket. So if you're like, I'm gonna be teaching 3D, I'm gonna make a living out of that, and that's the only like income funnel that I'm gonna have, that could be very risky because things go up and down all the time. So I recommend like playing it safe and trying to have, like, again, freelance work, maybe working on the studio, doing 3D, like the teaching 3D on your off time or on weekends. Like, there are ways to balance things out and to ensure that you are a little bit more successful in that regards. Hopefully that helped. Generally, they don't share the full 3D game that workflow cleanly on platforms like YouTube or Udemy. Do you think they don't share the essential information you need to get into the field because they don't know they don't know it, or because they don't want to share it? That's a great question. I think there's a fear of sharing it. I think they don't share it because they don't want to share it, and that's something that from day one, from the first tutorial I recorded, I was like, no, I mean, the information is out there. If you're really good at finding the information, you can like learn absolutely everything for free. Absolutely everything. However, what we offer is our teaching style and our tools, right? So I always try to teach every single thing that's being used. And I do feel like there are some not instructors or courses where they kind of just like brush over the main stuff. It's like, yeah, just learn a little bit of this and that's it. But it's not the whole thing, right? So unfortunately you need to like do your research to know who does this and who doesn't. But when I was a student, I had my fair share of tutorials that I bought, and there's like, I didn't learn anything. Like, it's just the exact same thing. So it's a hit and miss, right? So that's why, again, you need to do the research. And I think it's there's this fear, like if I teach them all my tools, then they're gonna take my job away. And I've never seen it like that. I've always seen it like, if I teach them my tools, then more people in the world will know these things, and we as a community are gonna be able to create something that's even more awesome, right? And I've always followed that sort of like a pattern, because when I teach at universities, I do the same thing. I teach them and I tell them, you guys are going to be my competition in the future. Like when you graduate, you guys are going to be competing against me for the same kinds of jobs. So here's the thing, I want you guys to be awesome, because if you get into a job where you need help, I want you guys to call me, and we together, we can work on it and make something even more awesome, right? Or if I have a big project and I need to involve more artists, I want to call you, my students, to help me, because I know that I taught you all of the things that I know, and we're going to be able to create something awesome. So I've always been of the mentality that if we help each other, then good things happen to everyone. Like we can all succeed. But I know, again, that there's people that don't see it that way, which is a little bit unfortunate. Thanks, man. Thank you, Game Art 101. And yeah, there's enough. That's another like quote that someone told me a couple of years ago. It's like, there's enough pie for everyone, right? Like the market, like the amount of people that there are in the world, so huge, so huge, that there's room for everyone. So give it a go. And if you fail, that's fine. You just find something new. Like that, I've always had that mentality. I've had my fair amount of failures as well as an artist, where I tried to do something and it didn't work out. I remember this was back in 2016. 3D printing was just getting like started, and people were getting like 3D printers and stuff. And I bought the quick save. There you go. We got the quick save file. Don't worry. So I bought a Source Tracks, which was a very fancy 3D printer back in the day. That one cost me $2,000. Very expensive machine. $2,000. And my idea was, I'm gonna buy the machine, I'm gonna make 3D parts for like manufacturing industries, I'm gonna sell them, I'm gonna recover the the investment in like 6 months. And I was already like feeling like a freaking genius doing it. It failed. Like that business completely failed. I could never sell stuff at the cost that I was aiming for, because the technology was very new and people were not paying for it, and it just failed. Like I literally have the printer right there, like just collecting dust, because it didn't work. So it happens. You fail. And that's fine. And at the same time, there was a friend of mine that also started doing 3D printing, and they did succeed. So am I mad at them or something? No, because we each have our own path to go through. And if my path was not that one, which I'm now certain that it was not, then that's fine. You just need to keep pushing and keep looking for whatever the next thing is going to be. Daniel, you took too much time, man. Don't worry, the stream is gonna be live tomorrow on YouTube as well, so that you can see how we got to this point. Which, by the way, I'm about to finish the stream because I do need to go and take care of other things here in the studio, as I was mentioning. But I feel like we did a good progress so far with the concept. Like I think we successfully managed to merge together two important concepts, which was a bear, mushrooms, and this sort of like pillow, like cushy, like alien technology. So yeah, let's see. Despite the gaming industry being twice the size of the total film music industry, people are afraid to share and afraid of losing their jobs. Interesting. Yeah, and we at 3D community haven't yet reached the saturation we haven't been. Yeah, of course. So, and I'm gonna give you guys a very like interesting secret. This might blow someone's mind. It's not a pretty truth, right? The gaming industry, it's huge. It's a huge industry, as you guys are mentioning in the comment. There's so much opportunities out there. However, we as a community have this fucked up vision that the only places that it's worth it, or the only way that you can prove yourself as an artist, like you can say, I'm a real game artist, is if you work in the top companies. But the top companies have so little space. So I'm gonna give you an example. Every single time I start a new class, I ask people, where would you like to work? It's always the same. Riot, Blizzard, Activision, 343 Industries, I don't know, Bethesda, things like that. And the amount of spots that those companies have are very limited. So it is very difficult. Like, you're going to be competing against thousands of people that also want to work there. However, if you look for companies that are doing similar things, maybe indie games, maybe single A games or double A games, you will be, or I personally believe that you can find a lot of fulfillment as an artist working on those companies, doing the exact same pipeline. You're gonna be modeling, texturing, rigging, doing all the exact same things for a smaller market. Okay, and you're gonna be making a good living. You're not gonna be stressed with crunch time and like union things and stuff like that. So there's a huge opportunity out there for 3D art. But my advice is try to remove that like blindfold that we sometimes give ourselves. That happened to me. I thought that if I didn't got to the Blizzard cinematic department, I was a failure as an artist. And now after several years of being an artist, it's like, no, it's just that's one spot. Like not because, just because you're not there doesn't mean that you're not an artist. You're an artist because you do art. And if you can do art, sustain the family, be happy, go on vacation, I mean, what else can you ask for, right? So keep pursuing this dream of being an artist, but keep your mind open and see all of the other possibilities where you can do your art and be happy as a person as well. I know that's a little bit of a heavy topic, but it's an unfortunate reality of our world that not everyone will be able to get to the exact same thing that everyone wants, right? So if there's 2,000 people that want to work as a character artist at Riot and there's 2 positions, then 1,998 people are going to be sad. But it's up to you, if you were not one of those that got in, if it's up to you to be sad or decide that you can be happy somewhere else. So that's it. That's my 2 cents on the whole thing. So it says there were a few times when I started on freelancing when my clients would ask me if I knew anyone else to do the work because I couldn't do it all. I recommend them to the 3D art Discord channels that I was following. Is there any way we could add a channel to the Discord in case we hear of jobs? I think we already have one. Oh no, we don't have one. Yeah, I think that would be a good idea, to be honest. We might want to add one in the community, like job opportunities or something. I think that's a great idea, man. Says those who generally want to work for large companies may do so because they want their art to be seen by a large audience. Yeah, and here's the thing, like, there's no rule like written anywhere that says that in order for people to see your artwork, you need to work at a famous company, right? Like, who says that you need to work at a famous company to do that? No one. Like, you right now, like Saf Gamer, Saf Gamer, you could do a piece, an amazing piece, post it online, and then everyone's gonna see it. And that's it. Now, do you want your name on a games credit or a movie credit? That's fine. If that's your goal, go for it. But just keep in mind that the competition is really fierce at that level. So you need to do whatever else everyone's not doing, you need to do it. So extra hours of work, extra practice, know the right people, and even then, things can be tricky. So yeah, that's the sad thing. It's not a sad thing, but yeah, sorry, that's right. We might want to add that in the near future. So it's not a sad thing, it's just a reality of the world. Like, the amount of things or the amount of opportunities out there might not equal the amount of people that want to do it. But if you wake up every day and you do whatever you can on that day to improve yourself, your art, and whatever you're doing, then the chances that you're going to be able to get to that level increase. And I think that's like the best someone can do. There was a movie recently. Oh, did you see the Pinocchio movie from Guillermo del Toro? I'm not sure if you saw that one. If you haven't seen it, you guys have to see it. It's so good. And Jiminy Cricket says a quote that has been on my mind ever since I saw it, which is, "I did the best I could, and that's the best someone could expect," or something like that. Let me see. Let me get the exact quote. Jiminy Cricket quote, Pinocchio 2022, I think it was. There we go. It says, "You must try your best, and that's the best anybody can do." I think that's a super powerful quote because that's the reality. We each have our own way of living our lives, and we each have our own like things to face. And the best thing we can do is just trying our best. That's it. And then just let's hope for the best, because there's so many other things that we cannot control. Yeah, just keep pushing. Just keep pushing. Yeah, the entrepreneur route is really cool. I've been doing that for ever since I graduated in 2016. It has its ups and downs. So the best thing is that you have a lot more control over what you do and how you do it. The bad thing is that there's no security. So I've had some really good years and I've had some really bad years, and you need to be able to handle that, because there's people that cannot handle the stress of not knowing what's going to come in the future. If you're not one of those people, then getting a job is probably a little bit safer for you. But if you like that challenge, I personally do, then it can be a very fulfilling experience as well. So that's it, my friends. I'm gonna have to leave right now because I gotta take care of some things here at the studio. But thank you very much for being here in the stream. Please remember, if you're not part of the Discord channel, we're gonna link it in just a second. If you want to learn a little bit more about the 3D world, we have 2 premium courses available right now as well, where you can learn about Blender and how to create weapons for games. And we have another one, which is a ZBrush, all of these things that we've been doing here for stylized characters. We did this very cool like demon Oni character. And yeah, make sure to check our YouTube channel as well. This video is going to be uploaded tomorrow as well to the YouTube page, and I'll be seeing you back next week for more 3D content. Thank you very much, my friends. I will see you back on the next one. Bye bye.